Hey guys, so we're back with another video for FAR 1. In this one, we're going to do Chapter 4, an example for earnings per share. And in the 16th edition, this is pages 167 through 169. So what I'm going to do here is we just have the set of facts that's given. Generally, in a problem, if it was like a free response, right, if you had to make a full income statement, you would be solving for a lot of these numbers, obviously. But I just went ahead and just said, okay, let's just focus on the EPS part of it, which is you're going to see what we need to do here in a second, prepare the EPS section of the income statement. But let's just go through the facts. So basically, weighted average shares outstanding. I said, let's make it 100,000. I made all these numbers pretty easy to deal with just so we get the concept initially. Income from continuing operations, $500,000. Preferred dividends, $200,000. Discontinued operations, net of tax, $50,000 of income, so that's positive $50,000, and then finally a net income of $550,000, right? And this is given, but if you were given income from continuing operations and disc ops, you would be able to figure out net income. You would just add or subtract or do whatever, right? Because if you took net income from continuing operations, add or subtract your disc ops, we have net income. Okay, right? And so what we want to do here is that we want to prepare the earnings per share section of the income statement. Okay, and in order to do that, we need our formula for EPS. So I just went ahead and wrote it down here. And so it's net income minus preferred dividends divided by weighted average shares outstanding, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and walk through how you would set up this part of the income statement, and then we'll go through the numbers as well. Okay, so the first part is that this is how we're going to walk through each step here, okay? But just imagine that right above this, on this piece of paper, you would obviously, if this was a free response question and they said, prepare a multi-step income statement, then obviously you would have all the things that we just discussed and probably a lot more would be right above this line, right? But we're just focusing on earnings per share here, and so that's what we're going to look at. So the first thing you want to do is you want to have some sort of title, if you will, here. You need to have something like earnings per common share or earnings per share or something like that there. And then you go ahead and you probably want to just indent a little bit. And then you just write out each line of it, starting with income from continuing operations. So I already have these written out, but the first one you start off with is income from continuing operations. Okay. Then you would have, if you have a discontinued operation, you would put income from discontinued operations net of tax. Okay, I forgot the net of tax, but make sure it's there, right? I just wrote that in. Make sure it says net of tax there, just so that we can get full credit on the exam. And you need to have that, and then you would have net income. Okay, that's your final line. I said this in another video, but just to reiterate, net income is the final number, right? But we care about these intermittent numbers as well, right? These numbers that the continuing operations one and the disc ops, we have to have those as well to get full credit on the exam, and that's the way it has to be shown. Okay, so if it says prepare a multi-step income statement or something to that effect on a free response, you need to make sure you're breaking it out into 3 separate lines, assuming that we have all these items. Okay, so that's basically the presentation, and then let's walk through some of the more common errors. Let's just go ahead and go through this problem. So let's just work through the numbers, right? So the first thing that we would care about, right, just going back here for 1 second, we're going to get the numbers, but we want to do income from continuing operations, EPS, right? And so we'd have to go up here, we'd have to grab our income from continuing operations, that'd be 500,000, right? So we would want to do 500,000, and we would want to subtract out our preferred dividends. Okay, so we'd want to do 200,000 subtracted, and then on the bottom, we're doing weighted average shares outstanding. It tells us it's 100,000 in the problem, so not too complicated, right? We just do the math, and we would see that that's $3 even. Okay, so we could go ahead and fill in that part right here, and we would say that's $3. Sorry, it should be moved down a little bit, but $3 right there for income from continuing operations. Okay, that's the first part. Okay, one thing to note here is this idea of the preferred dividends. Where do we subtract that out? Okay, in terms of, do we subtract it from the income from continuing operations, or should we subtract it from income from discontinued operations? All right. It's your choice in some ways. And I mean, and technically it really should be, sorry, scratch that. It should be from income from continuing operations because that's the one that makes the most sense. Income from disc ops is kind of its own separate thing. So whenever we do income from discontinued operations, make sure we leave that separate. Okay. This XYZ thing is going to make sense in a minute. I'm just going through the actual numbers, and then we're going to walk through the other piece. Then we have income from discontinued operation. That was the next one. Okay. The only thing we have to do there is we have to find income from discontinued operation. That's 50,000. Okay. So we would have 50,000 there. We would divide that by 100,000. And then we would do 0.5. Okay. 0.5, 50 cents. So we have 50 cents. And then if we added those up, we would have 350, but we can check our work, right? Some people at this point might be asking, why are we not subtracting the preferred dividends from income from discontinued operations? And I'm going to cover that in just a second. Let's just go through net income first, and then we'll do that. Okay, so we figured out that we had 350, right? If we just add down, we'd get 350. But let's just check that. Okay, so net income, all right, let's use our formula. Net income is 550, right? 550,000. Then we would subtract out preferred dividends of 200,000. Okay, that would be 350 on the top, 350,000. On the bottom, we know we'd have 100,000 because that's given at the top. Shares outstanding. So that'd be $3.50, right, total. So we see that our net income, our EPS for net income is 350. Okay, now let's get down here and let's discuss probably the most common issue with this, which is why I use this formula here. X plus Y equals Z.